This is the Team Objection Podcast for November 30th, 2021, episode 507. I'd gotten better about timing the start of the show, and then I messed up this week, so now there's going to be like 2 seconds at the start where we're all just kind of like,
God damn it, Chris.
I know. It's been a long day. It's been a long week. It's been a long month, year, decade.
It's Tuesday.
Millennia.
It's been a long week. It's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
It's been a long week. It's Wednesday, Lemon. So we have the title of the episode is Hot Hot Heat. I thought, what better way to blend together two things that just fit together perfectly than hot takes and something about the Suns? I mean, they just go hand in hand. How have we not done this before?
Don't leave yet, though,
hot.
because we're starting with the hot takes.
Right. I put the Sun stuff at the end because I know not everybody cares about that. And look, we've been down this road before.
So if you're sick of the Suns, you can leave at the end. But stay, because we have some blistering hot takes.
I get to react to them because I have none.
You'll think of some.
No.
I'm putting Sean in the first slot. I'll take
Okay.
hot takes too because I have a segue into the later stuff.
I'll do the one that I think is the most relevant.
All right, here you go.
I actually thought, so I saw Eternals, and I thought this was relevant because it's a somewhat new movie, still in theaters, and it is getting a lot of flack for being the worst reviewed Marvel movie ever, actually. It's the only rotten one out of all of them. And I saw it, and I was like, what is wrong with people? So the hot take is I actually think Eternals is a good movie and far from the worst of the MCU. I actually thought it was in the upper half of the MCU. And I was going to do like a separate hot take thing, but I won't do that. I'll just say, to me, it is so much better to be flawed than boring. And what I got with Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel is like, yeah, this is fine, but this is the same thing that we've seen a million times. It's the same formula. And I thought Eternals did something a little bit different. And it was kind of unique. And obviously, I appreciated the diversity, and not just for diversity's sake. I thought it added a lot of unique perspectives that we haven't seen in a Marvel movie before. So I thought it was thoroughly enjoyable. I didn't really see the ending coming. I thought it was awesome. So I thought it was pretty bold, flawed for sure, but I thought it was pretty good. I'm going to say that.
So when you say diversity, do you mean the diversity of having like 30 main characters in the movie?
No, that was a big risk that I think mostly works. Again, like it was bold and it doesn't work perfectly. That's part of the reason it's flawed. But they're by far the most diverse, both in cast. You have like every ethnicity represented. You also have a deaf actress. A deaf character played by a deaf actress. You have a gay couple, and they actually kiss, and you know that's nice. Although it got it banned in like 3 countries, so
yeah, it did.
That's unfortunate for those countries and also for the movie. But yeah, it was great seeing all those perspectives on the screen, how they all played out, who they decided to make like the lens character, because we have an ensemble. Inevitably, you always have an anchor character, like the person that you're seeing most of the movie through their perspective. And I thought that was a really good choice too. I just enjoyed it. I like left the theater. I was like, I had a really good time. This is so much better than Thor 2, where other than a little bit of Loki and Thor there in the middle, I thought was a completely irredeemable movie.
Like it's drab. And it's surprising to me. I mean, it's a product of its time, right? Because back then, what was that in the order? Like 9th or something of the 21
early.
in phase 1.
Yeah.
So at the time, it was still like, well, this wasn't the best, but like whatever, it's still pretty good. And now, of course, we have a much different scale to weigh it against, like Eternals does. So I think it's just a matter of comparison, because I think if you put out Thor 2 now, it would also tank.
Yeah.
For some of the same reasons. Some of that's just MCU fatigue, I think, which is going to be inevitable as we go forward. Some of it's probably unfair criticism. And some people just don't like diversity. So that's always going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, how much of that, like, normally you don't see that come through on, like, professional critic reviews, normally. So I don't know what the deal was, but I thought it looked beautiful. Everybody's like, why hire Chloe Zhao if you're going to have it look so pedestrian? I thought the cinematography was awesome, and the way they bring to life the motif and the visuals was really cool. I don't know. Michaela's right. Druid and Makari, they are the best 2 characters, and they're also the best couple, which will not surprise you. But they're the one couple that they're not trying to force down your throat. The one they're trying to force down your throat actually doesn't work at all.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
It sure
Hey,
is.
this is our shining example of what a couple should be. Here, you guys, focus on this. No, this one over here is way better.
Yeah.
That actually could be a fun segment one day. So we did like bad video games with good starts or endings and vice versa. So this could be like bad TV, movie, whatever video game couples that were shoehorned in and couples that should have been but weren't.
Yeah. Oh man.
I
Give me a little bit of time. We could fill that for sure.
Yeah, that would take some research. I don't know if you can do that off the top of your. I mean, I'm sure we can think of like a couple, but
I have one prominent example off the top of my head, but I won't say it now.
But to do the legwork for it, to put in the proper research, because we care about you as a viewer, and also we care about just not looking half-assed on the show. Like, I don't like couples. I didn't really think about it.
Yeah,
and also the fact that show ideas are rough. Like getting ideas for the show sometimes is rough.
Yeah.
Pull that one out of the bag.
I have to say, Michaela says Cersei and Icarus, those are two main characters, were garbage. I have to defend, though, Cersei. I love Cersei alone. I don't know, Richard Madden, he's the actor, Dave, you might kind of know him from Game of Thrones, the little that you watched. He was like Prince Robb, like the White Knight who got red weddinged to death. He's a great actor in that show and has never had any kind of charisma, I feel like, after that. I don't know what it is. He seems like a nice guy. I want to root for him. He just hasn't connected with me in any other role.
So this one fits in the MCU, theoretically, right? Like it is fully part. So the criticisms I've heard, and I guess I'll throw out a light spoilers warning, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, get out if you need it. Is that it kind of messes up a little bit of the problems with Thanos in the sense of like, why didn't the Eternals, do something throughout all this?
So let me say, going into the movie, completely valid question of like, well, where were these guys if they were there the whole time?
Mm-hmm.
The movie, I feel, super addresses that to the point where it's almost like a main plot point of like, and it's a continued conflict where they're not supposed to get involved, and they're reaching this point where like some of them, when they're facing a doomsday, some of them are like, you know what, we keep not getting involved. We keep feeling like shit. And then some of them want to continue to fight. Like it creates infighting almost. So it's definitely something that I think they address really well. And you can see why, because of their, almost brainwashing. They're just like, nope, human conflict or, even alien, whatever. We only get involved on a specific threat. And that's it. And they even go into why that's the case. So I think they do it. So when I hear that criticism, I wonder how much the people watch the movie or how much critics watch like a 15-minute like hot reel of the main points and we're like, yeah, I'm ready for the review.
Yeah. Second thing I've heard is, and this is going off what I've heard because I haven't seen the movie, but I have read about it, listened to things about it, is that in a way, again, spoilers, it sort of proves Thanos right because the beast inside the Earth kills everyone on Earth when it's overpopulation. So if you kill half of everybody, well, that solves that problem, right?
Yeah, well, but to me, that's not a criticism because they address that too. And that is it's a thought that you have like, oh, so Thanos wanting to wipe out half the Earth could have delayed all of this. And now what I think is such a cool dynamic of the film is the thing that is going to destroy the Earth. Because now we're getting spoilers. It's Dave's fault this time.
I said spoiler.
It's technically like a good force that's responsible for then birthing more life and races and all of that. So like its birth would be the end of our planet, but the birth of so many others and life forms and whatever. So from the Celestials' perspective, Thanos was not a good guy because he delayed this beautiful process. But to our heroes, they're like, oh, if it's birth, then everyone here dies and humanity's worth saving. It creates this moral quandary. So that's what I appreciated. Like so often in the Marvel movie, it's like you get some high paid actor who's like half the time doing a paycheck. Some of them are lovely. They do a great job. Sometimes they don't. This was one where actually the conflict felt really organic and interesting. And that was my favorite part about it is those things that you brought up. But yeah, I mean, but the pacing feels strange. I read a review that said it would be much better as a TV show because then you could flesh out each character and kind of time period. Mm-hmm. Probably very astute. Yeah. But, it still worked. For me as a movie, it still worked.
Well, you have a history of liking things that are not always universally loved and vice versa, actually. So
I know. It's probably at work here, too, is like my syndrome of like, got to root for the underdog. But so take that with a grain of salt, listeners. But I did enjoy the movie.
Okay,
that's my hot take. Like pretty hot. It's not like it was trashed universally. It's just like everyone was like, "Oh, that's the worst of the MCU," and I'm saying no, it's not.
You are going against groupthink, which is a dangerous thing to do. So,
I'm just that brave, Dave.
That is the spirit of hot takes, though. I mean, it is supposed to be that human spirit embodied in opinions, and not just like, this is a mild take or this is a hot take other people have already had.
Yeah.
Which is going to make mine unfortunate.
Oh, no.
But we'll get there. I had a hard time deciding how I wanted to frame this because there's a couple different ways to do it. I think I'm going to go for the relatively stupid one and then try and back it up in a way that still makes me have some semblance of credibility. Okay?
Okay, I like it.
I have a hot take.
All right. Thank you.
Some people are fucking stupid.
Well.
Okay,
all right,
this
good.
Is not hot. So
not very hot, right? Pretty lukewarm, if not just ice cold, right? I think that's not really a phenomenal start. I recognize that I need to do some legwork to redeem this, okay?
Okay.
Hold on. So I have a couple specific examples I wanted to bring up, and it was easier just to lump them together. There's an overarching one that I'm just going to drop now that I'm not going to get into because I also think it deserves a longer one, and I talked to Sean about this already, so he knows. One of the hot takes was going to be, I think we've done a terrible job with messaging during this pandemic. As a country, as a world, as a society, as whatever you want. I have some examples. We'll save that for later, though. That's going on the back burner. But it still ties into my overarching point, okay?
Okay, interesting. This is quite a journey.
Let's make it more specific then. One of the main criticisms I saw yesterday of Halo Infinite, a game that I have not played, is that people who are pushing back against the game's problems are stupid somehow because the things that are being offered as far as like daily and weekly challenges are free and therefore should be above reproach. For those who are not familiar with Halo Infinite, it's essentially got this system in place where the multiplayer, which by all accounts is like super fun and really good and like maybe the best that the Halo series has had to offer because it just takes what they've done well traditionally throughout time and just expands and improves it. But then it throws in these challenges that are doing two things. One, it seems to be splitting the player base because you're supposed to, say, play a certain number of capture the flag matches in a week. So if you queue into a random match and it isn't capture the flag, people just quit maybe 2/3 or so. So your game is just ruined from the start because it gets replaced by bots or it's just a mess, right? And two, it's also changing the way people play inside of those campaigns because maybe you're supposed to do capture the flag, and that's great. You land in one of those matches, but then you're supposed to get like 5 headshots, or you're supposed to end 10 killing sprees. So then people are running around trying to bait the enemy into having killing sprees, like by throwing their bodies at them over and over again, so that they can then end the killing spree.
It reminds me of one of those board games where like you have a group goal and a co-op, and then you also have like personal goals. But those are designed by nature to be kind of like cagey against each other and kind of like create rifts. Maybe not what you want in a multiplayer co-op shooter.
So the criticism then is people have valid complaints against, hey, these things are happening due to the system you've set up. And therefore then there is pushback to those people's criticisms because, oh, it's free, just deal with it. That type of thing.
So basically this is a hot take against bootlickers because it's fine to not think that every single thing about something that you love is perfect. And it's also fine to examine it in a greater context and decide, okay, even though this is a thing I love that I think has a lot of merits, maybe it could be better. Maybe we shouldn't settle for something that's really good. Maybe we should strive for excellence instead. So it will not surprise you to learn that one of the people in the forefront of this charge against people complaining about the game was Kotaku, who, as usual, put out some limp dick headline about like, no, the game's actually fine, shut up.
Nice.
I mean,
I guess
I think this makes me think of the bigger problem that people have is that if it's not perfect, it's garbage. And I can't understand that mentality. Like, hey, this game has flaws, but it's still a lot of fun. What's wrong with that, I guess?
Well, and then you have the opposite side. It's all like expectations, right? And so the expectation here is it's free, so the quality can be anything. There's another one where if it's DLC, people are mad. And it's like they should have released that. Always the headline you see or the comment is like, I remember the days when a game was packaged and sent and that was the game you got. And like what these people aren't realizing, and many people are quick to correct them, is like, yeah, do you know how many features end up on the cutting room floor, never to see the light of day when that happens. Like every game earlier than the era of DLC, you'll see like the dev videos and stuff, and they just talk about like, yeah, we had this really cool idea. We had to cut it. We didn't have time. Now we can amend that. But they're like, no, it needs to come as the perfect package. So yeah, it's just like expectations. Paint what people perceive on a thing before they actually even can form their own opinion half the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of mad at the whole process. It's not a very hot take, I admit, but it still fit the segment. So I was going to bring it, even recognizing I was going to get lambasted for it. That's fine.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's okay. I think half the time, a hot take, it's great if it is like a hot take. But if you're heated by the take, it also works.
Yeah.
It's still a hot take.
Yeah, it's hot in different degrees. Exactly.
Yeah, again, the criticisms that come, the need to make your criticisms public all the time confuses me. There's times, Sean's recommended a game, Chris's recommended a game. It just doesn't hit me right for whatever reason.
And I get furious.
Hey, and it makes you mad. But like, I'm not going to say like, Jesus, Sean, what's wrong with you? This game had this wrong. And I hated this. And I didn't like this. I'd be like, hey, like it just didn't catch me. Maybe I'll try again later. Maybe I'm not in the right family mood. But I'm not going to be like, yeah, I hated it. Like, there's no reason to do that. Maybe it just wasn't for me. Like, people have different preferences.
It's along those lines, except it's a step further. It's not even just that, because you're right. It's also, you're dumb for liking this thing because I don't like it.
Yeah, you know what? This is my biggest, I shouldn't speak ill of the dead, but like Michelle, this used to drive me crazy. I would recommend a thing, and her response, if she didn't like it, was like, that was the biggest piece of shit. You must be some kind of idiot. Talking in the third person. If you like this, you must be a horrible piece of shit dirtbag. It's like, okay, well, you could have just said maybe it wasn't for you. So I do appreciate, Dave, even though I get on your case, I appreciate that you're like, yeah, it just didn't hit me the right way. Yeah. And you don't attack me directly for the things that I like.
I only attack when you attack. But that happens with, I mean, that's politics in a nutshell right now. It's like, if you are not the supporter of my party, then therefore you are evil. It's like, well, I mean, there's nuance in here, and I hate that, how this has become in the social media era, where it's, if you don't agree with me, therefore you are my enemy. It's like, but there's like 4 other things we can agree on and 10 other things we can disagree on, and maybe 2 other things where we kind of agree a little bit. Like, why does it have to be so binary?
You know what? It's harmless enough when it is about dumb things, I'm using air quotes, like video games or pop culture or whatever, sports.
TV show,
like,
yeah.
The stakes are pretty low. They seem high in the moment, but the Suns losing the championship last year didn't actually change the world in any significant way. That's why the politics example is so stupid, because how are we supposed to get anywhere if people won't even engage on the most basic of levels?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of all under the stupid umbrella, and I have one last one that fits. That's also the perfect segue for me. This is also not in any way a hot take. Stephen A. Smith is a fucking moron.
I defended him for a while against you guys, and now I'm like, I can't stand the guy.
It's too contrarian, and he's made his brand off of it, so in that sense, he is quite clever. He's only an idiot in certain ways, but he's getting to the point now where he's just having bad takes to have bad takes, and he can't even stand behind like some kind of flukish position. Sean, this is a tactic you should be familiar with, because it was you for the first 120 or so episodes of the show.
I learned from his book.
Longer than that.
From his Bible.
Yeah, it's actually still happening now. But even just today, his stance was, on this morning's first take, the Suns' title window has closed.
Good. Excellent.
And in the same breath as saying that, so forget, we're all Suns fans, obviously we're going to take issue with that, but forget that, okay, forget that part of it. In the same point he's making about the fact that their window has closed, he calls them championship contenders this year. So what are you even saying? You're not saying anything. You're just saying a bunch of fucking garbage words to get clicks and views, and it's stupid. It's a waste of time.
He needs to say the line that they're going to put as the title of the video when they do those clips on YouTube. That's what the goal is. Say something controversial that we can get a soundbite out of, and then we go from there. It doesn't have to be coherent or consistent. Just like say whatever. Yeah, it bothers me. And then I saw... I mean, there's a lot of smart people that come on and debate him. I actually am a fan of Max Kellerman. That might be a hot take in and of itself. But,
I am too. I agree.
JJ Redick was on, and another one that I thought, was great and very, I thought, like, measured and And even measured in the take, and then Stephen A. as a very opposite comes in and like fights him, and also pulls the "I'm a veteran, kid, so why don't you cool your jets?" And it's like, okay.
Which the best part of that is JJ's like, I just played in the league last year. I think I know what the take is on the league right now. What players?
That was the thing of LeBron, right? Everybody trying to be like LeBron is weak, and look, I'm not like a huge LeBron fan, but he scared the hell out of me for a long time. Yeah, maybe now that he's 50 years old, we can be like, oh yeah, LeBron, he sucks. It's like, yeah, I wasn't seeing you saying that like years ago. And JJ Redick being like, hey, I actually played with a guy, and no, he's fearsome in about every way you could think, but also he's done all this humanitarian stuff.
Yep.
So it's frustrating. Soma, your point is exactly right. And look, I mean, he mentions the goal is to get engagement. Yeah, that's at the end of the day what's working. It's working right now because we're talking about it on the show when it isn't really worth the airspace at all.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, good job, Stephen A. Smith.
Here's what bothers me the most about it is I actually feel that if he wants to be a journalist, or not even a journalist, if he wants to be an opinion person, he actually can formulate good opinions. He can do research. He can provide content. But the problem is when it has to be clipped into a 30-second soundbite, when it has to be a headline, what else can you do except for try to throw something out that's going to get someone to click on it? Like you said, Chris, like he's going to throw out the Suns' title window is closed. But in the same sentence, he says that it's their championship contenders. Well, yeah, I guess the title window's closed in next year when Chris Paul declines. I don't know. Like, I don't know the content of it. And I just wish he didn't have to do this because this is what people react to. I would rather watch I'd rather, like, I have a subscription to The Athletic, for example, because I like the fact they don't have to do the hot take.
Yeah. Well, and Soma and Jack Rock both are, they're right on the money of basically, it's all about just engagement and sensationalism and not really about like a good take. But again, I like ESPN when there is a good take and when it is kind of measured. It always has to be like, I have to say this profound statement. And it's like such extremes. Either the title you're going to win the championship or it's closed and you have no chance. Again, it's never like, let's give them some time and I could see it happening.
It's binary.
It is completely binary, and then what you run the risk of, and I can't believe there hasn't been more blowback for this, is how often you are inevitably wrong. And it happens all the time. Sometimes you're contradicted like the next week. And I wish there was more repercussions for that, but like there's not.
Well, I mean, there are not. In the replies to the tweet that went out on social media about this, number one, JJ Redick was on Today and was fighting him tooth and nail on this very point with like statistics and anecdotal evidence and whatever. So he was once again pushing back as best he could. So good for him. In the replies to that video, one of the videos that was posted was of Stephen A. Smith last November, I think, when the Bucks got off to a slow start, going on and on about how they should trade Giannis because they were done. They were not going to win an NBA title. So we just have plenty of examples of exactly what you just mentioned, which is just this is completely wrong. And not even just like, well, this is an opinion and it didn't really pan out, but just like this has just factually been disproven. And what a stupid time. I mean, you can say what you will about the Suns' win streak, which we're just about to get into, hence the segue. But it seems like a really stupid time to pick now when they've won 16 straight to be like, yeah, they're done. They're not going to win a title. If you want to do that after they lost the 4 straight finals games, okay. That would have probably been dumb then too, just given the overall youth of the roster. But okay, maybe.
Here's the problem. In the NBA, how hard is it for a new team to break through and win a title? It's really freaking hard. And there's only one team out of 30 now that wins the championship every year. So, like, it's very likely he could be right, but not because he's so insightful, just because, like, the odds are in his favor. So it's all bullshit.
What I don't get through all of it is I think what rubs people the wrong way is the matter-of-fact statement, the objectiveness of the Suns' title window is closed. Somebody like Zach Lowe, for example, is someone who I don't think has a lot of hot takes, and I really appreciate that about him, but he's on ESPN. He's not as big of a personality, obviously, as Stephen A., but he says something like, the thing I'm seeing about this team is XYZ due to the play on their court and how this person's playing, and I think this could lead down a bad trend for them. He's saying, here's the evidence I see, and here's where I think it could lead. I could be wrong, but this is what I'm seeing. And I appreciate that so much more. If you want to say the Suns don't have a title window because they have a flaw in their game and this is how it's going to be exploited, great. Give me reasons.
You know what else too? Yeah, well, reasons, evidence would just be wonderful. I don't know that if he knows what that is, although apparently anytime he gets criticized, he's like, I worked the beat for 50 years. So it's hard. Zach Lowe is such a great example, though, because he does bring up the evidence and he will bring up plays and tendencies on offense and statistics, which I already said. But he seems to just have so much joy. Like, exactly. He will find something nice to say, it seems like to me, about like every team. And like, oh, I'm not ready to give up on so-and-so yet. Or like, this person played really bad, but I still have hope. And that's something else like so many of these pundits like don't have. There's like hatred. And I get it. I have hatred, but it's almost like I want you in the media to balance me out. And like, I appreciate when Zach Lowe is like, I hate the Lakers, but he like finds something nice to say about Russell Westbrook. And I'm like, cool. I like you. This is nice.
That's the biggest criticism of the old guard of media right now is that they hate the league today. They hate the players today.
Yeah.
Like it's the constant, man, no one could touch Jordan. Like Jordan has become the sign, the marquee of like their argument. It's like no one could touch him. And he's become this Thanos like God that no one else can possibly even come to. And that was the argument he had with JJ Redick, was just basically, well, no one fears LeBron like they did Jordan. It's like, well, no one can to this mythical creature you've created. Of course no one can. And it perpetuates.
I love that Marvel like has permeated so much that even you will reference it. That's great. Roger Babin, don't go anywhere. It's not all sports yet. I have a fun fact. It's not a hot take. It's a fun fact.
Okay.
You probably won't have anything to say. Dave, you might find this interesting, actually. I was playing my Wii U. I was playing Metroid Prime. I needed a sensor bar. I didn't have it. Turns out that the sensor bar works only on infrared light. So the sensor picks up infrared. All the bar is doing is emitting infrared light. So for all of you listening, and you're like, where's he going with this and why? It's not going to be worth it, but stay tuned. If you light 2 candles and put them about 6 inches apart at a relatively even space, that can work as your sensor bar. I did it. It works. I proved it.
This was a hack on YouTube like literally 12 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, Wii U discussion maybe isn't super relevant, but I had to share. For all of you with the Wii U out there, which is like 100 people, the Venn diagram of our listeners and active Wii U owners, probably not a lot. Roger's like, I should have just gone off.
I am still here, but I regret my choices.
This was not worth it. Anyways.
I regret this decision immediately.
Mm-hmm. And to catch up on chat a bit, Doug's like, first take, more like worst take. Yeah, that's correct. Got him. Jack Rock's like, first take to get in-depth sporting news is like watching General Hospital to get top-notch acting and storytelling. I would say it's more like watching General Hospital to get top-notch medical advice. Yeah. But you're still on the right track, absolutely. Yeah. Or just watching Grey's Anatomy for any reason. Don't do it.
See, so much. MacGruber, thank you. Someone gets it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. MacGruber.
Yeah. I can't wait till it blows up in your face, just like everything does.
No, come on. It worked. It worked really well. It's just kind of annoying to get the matches and all that, but... Anyways, Babin, I'm sorry. We're now. I tried to get you, but we have to talk about the Suns.
Right. My segue got interrupted, but it still exists. Yeah. We're still going to it.
I'll keep it entertaining for you. I promise.
Yeah. So October 27th is the last time the Suns have lost. They are moments away from tipping off against the league best Golden State Warriors. More on that in a little bit. So we're going to be having that happen as we're live, and that couldn't be helped. That's just when the show is and when the game happened to fall. They're also going to play them again on Friday, so we'll see. But right now, they are one shy of the franchise record win streak. They've won 16 straight going into tonight's game. We talked last time, the last time Dave was on the show, actually, because he missed the episode before Thanksgiving, was when we talked about them being 6-3. They'd won 5 straight after that 1-3 start. And then it's been 3 weeks, and they just kept winning. So just impressions overall about this unprecedented success that's happening.
I think I was telling Chris this. I was so... like sometimes you have realizations like, oh my God, like something puts something in perspective for you. When we were all upset about Harrison Barnes hitting that crazy 3 and thinking, man, that, what are the chances? That was the last time we lost. Mm-hmm. And that feels like a long time ago. And it has been a long time. And there's been a lot of close games for sure. And ones that we eked out in clutch. but like that's what good teams do, man. Is like you look at the Golden State Warriors. I mean, they're blowing a lot of people out, but they've also had some close games, and they've had some close games against people who they probably shouldn't have close games against. And I would even say, in following their scores, they've done kind of what we've done. It'll be like tied in the fourth quarter, and then they'll like blow them out in a flurry of threes. But like, that's what happens. That's good teams. And even last year, we were losing a good handful of those games. And how far we've come from like 3 years ago, where we were always on the other side. So, yeah, I mean, thoughts and feelings. We have a swagger right now. We're not even playing our best ball, clearly, and we're still able to gut out these wins. And it's the type of basketball that I like, but we've made nice adjustments to faster speed of play, more emphasis. Well, I don't know if you put emphasis on this. We're just shooting the ball really well. So it's been great. It's been fun to watch.
I have been trying to look this up. I meant to do it earlier, but life gets in the way. There's some insane stat. You mentioned that games have been close. The sign of a good team is being able to execute in the clutch. Devin Booker and Chris Paul have been legendary in the clutch. Clutch being, I think, defined as a game in the last 5 minutes within a 5-point one way or the other, plus or minus 5 points. That they have Booker is shooting something like 71% in clutch. Paul is no turnovers in clutch time minutes.
Devin Booker is 11 for 15 in the last 2 minutes of games, so it's a little bit different than the traditional clutch definition. And Chris Paul is 8 for 14 in those same minutes.
And you know what we're doing too? We're getting Ayton involved more early. He's not yet like our clutch guy, although he's had some good plays in the fourth quarter. But he's so much more involved in the offense now leading up to that. And maybe that's giving our guys a break so they can really focus on the clutch time.
I appreciate you having the stats there, Chris, for me. I was trying to find them. But regardless, like it has come to a point where if we go into the fourth quarter down by 8, we're fine. It's okay.
Yes, I actually have been feeling that. I'm like, we're good.
We might not win. Obviously, this streak isn't going to last forever. Yeah. Certainly, we're not going to go 79-3. Yeah. But like, it's enough to where, you're confident they at least have a chance. It's not like, well, we're down 8 games over, where we could be up like 5 when that old version of these teams and be like, well, 5's probably not enough. We'll see if that lasts, and it never did. We lost 60 games a year.
What's crazy to me is this streak started with. The beginning of it was we were down to the Rockets for a little bit, and then we were down to the Pelicans for a little bit, and then came back and blew them out. And then we had that really rough game against Minnesota where, again, Booker and Paul came through in the clutch. I think it was the Minnesota game where Paul scored 19 points in the fourth quarter of a game that ended 99-96. So it was a low-scoring game, and Paul came in and had 2 points through 3 quarters and then scored 19 in the fourth. It's like, oh, hey, we're still here. I'm still Chris Paul. And since that Minnesota game, we have been blowing teams out. And some of them got closer towards the end, but like there has not been a game I felt like, oh man, we have no chance. We have no chance this game. Every single game is like, we're going to win this game.
Well, yeah, and even, Soma says in sports commentary, this is something we should go by. Spicy is fine, but brain dead isn't. I aspire to be both at all times. So, even the Dallas game, the first one especially, that was down to the wire. Like I was a little bit nervous there for a bit because scoring seemed so difficult. It was just once they got a little bit of a lead, I was like, I don't know. But we did. We held our composure and we gutted it out. That's what it's been feeling like. But it's been really fun.
It's also true in the opposite way because teams inevitably make a run. They always do in the NBA, especially with the increase in 3-point shooting. Well, we were up 20 in the first half against the Nets. Just the other night, and they pulled within 5, but a couple baskets by Paul before halftime pushed it back to 10. But even when it was happening, it wasn't like, oh God, everything's like the sky's falling, everything's going wrong. It was like, all right, not a good stretch for us, but we'll correct and we'll come out of it and it'll be fine.
Honestly, we've done that so many times. I wasn't even like, I was mindful that we could lose the game. But if you guys remember in the past when we blow a lead, I'm like, we're the worst. Where's the ledge? And now I'm like, I'm really understanding like that is just the nature of the game. It's like it's big runs. And it was actually really interesting. I was in the car with Maisie and we're talking about the Suns. And I was like, they're up by 20 to the Nets. And she's like, oh, like I didn't think that was a lot. And it like made me be like, it is, but it kind of isn't.
In the second quarter, it's kind of not.
Yeah, it's like, she was like, because you're not safe, right? And I was like, well, no, I would certainly say not.
Not against the best 3-point shooting team in the league.
So how can you say that's a lot? And I was like, man, you got me. I guess it's not a lot.
Yeah, 20 with 5 minutes left. You're like, yeah, I mean, sure, maybe you can close that gap with a flurry of threes, but probably not.
Yeah.
20 with 30 minutes left is an eon.
Yeah. But overall, there's the funny thing is, and I'm going to credit Zach Lowe's podcast because he did a podcast recently. So the Suns are so good at taking away what teams want to do. Like the Suns want to force you into mid-range shots, which is what the entire league wants to do. The entire league is driven on analytics of 3-pointers and layups are what you want. Mid-range shots are bad. The Suns have figured this out, that mid-range shots are good because we have the two best mid-range players in the game. Because there are times I've watched Chris Paul play where he gets to the exact same spot and hits the exact same shot 5 times in a row. I'm just like, how does he keep getting away with this?
Yeah.
Like, this shouldn't happen. And because NBA defenses are designed to take away the threes and the layups, Booker and Paul can just run rampant in that mid-range area.
Isn't this is what we've said, though, right? Like, we're finally seeing the rebalancing because we were saying as people just shoot threes and layups, you would think that there's going to be a day. The mid-range will again have its day in the sun because defenses they're like, yeah, you can take it. Well, if now that's the open thing and the percentages start to rise, like that's why basketball is great. Is like there's moves and counter moves and counter moves.
It's also a personnel thing though, and that's important because the only thing I would say that Dave said is wrong is Kevin Durant is the best mid-range scorer in the game. He might be the best scorer in every zone of the game. His shot chart this year is ludicrous.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying that is not to prove Dave wrong, but that the Brooklyn Nets are also really good in the mid-range. I wonder why that is. It's because they have somebody in Durant who takes a high volume of them at a high percentage where, if you have Jason Tatum taking a bunch of 19-footers a game, it doesn't go so well. Just a different, and Tatum's a good player who does a lot of things really well, but long twos are not among them. Whereas obviously with both Paul and Booker, we have a reason to do that more often, and especially during the regular season, teams are so programmed, take away the three, take away the layups, that they're going to give us those looks. In the playoffs is where we have to get a little more creative. We know we can. We did it last year.
Well, especially Booker's going to keep shooting 40+% from three. Because
such an improvement.
Then the defense can't just sink back on him. They have to respect the three. That opens up the mid-range or even just taking it all the way to the rim even more.
I have two arguments defensively. One, can we get off the Devin Booker's a bad defender train? Is it over? Is the train stopped at the station? Gone?
I mean, I've been off of it a long time.
I understand.
Yeah, you're saying generally?
I think so. I think he's actually a plus defender this year.
You're going to have to ask Stephen A., but I think it's fine.
And I wouldn't have said that even last year. I would have said maybe average, even with the work he had put in. I think he's actually a plus defender this year.
Secondly, if getting 7 steals against the Brooklyn Nets doesn't get Mikal Bridges first team all defense, something is horribly, horribly wrong. And that man is a sweet, sweet man that I just want to give a hug and share some Chipotle with because I love Mikal Bridges. He might be my favorite player on the team, and that's saying a lot.
Just a hug? Wow.
A tender hug.
He was like, I hope he wants a kiss.
A
and
deep
you're like,
hug.
a hug.
A special kind of hug.
Yeah, I mean, God, if nothing else, he put himself on the radar of the voters, right? On a big stage against a good team. Yeah, crazy steals. Just he alone almost made their offense seem in complete disarray in the first half.
I mean, 6 steals and a half is insane. I think I saw the stat where there's 3 players who have 7 steals in a game so far this season. 2 of them are on the Phoenix Suns. Chris Paul and Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, they had 15 turnovers in the first half, and some of that was self-inflicted, but half of those were Bridges, and then the other percentage of them, some of them were just the pressure that he and a couple others were inflicting upon the Nets. And you could see it. It looked like a vice grip tightening. I was like, oh, this is interesting. I mean, the Suns are top 10, top 7 in both offense and defense in the league this year. There's only a handful of teams that can say that. The Warriors are also one of them, which is why they're also really good. But, the Bulls are in that conversation. There's a couple others, and that's the hallmark of a really, really good team. So the Suns are a really, really good team. I'm not saying, well, after this start in 16 straight, now they're shoo-ins for the title. But it's just reaffirmed our own conviction that they're going to be in this conversation for the last 4 teams at the end of the year.
Last year was not a fluke. I mean, that's the nation knows now. The league knows. Fans know. Last year was not a fluke.
Well,
I do want to.
Really quick, Soma. Oh no, Dave. Yeah. I'm so sorry. I just want to get Soma's comment really quick. So he brings up the strategy, how it's shifting, and I think for a long time we've reached the culmination, the peak of it's a 3-point game now. The way that analytics work and percentages, it behooves teams to shoot more 3-pointers, and the volume has just gone up precipitously. That's the opposite, but every year it's just increased, and now maybe we're seeing a shift in that dynamic because the Suns, having the second best record in the NBA, are also one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in terms of volume. They're like 28th or 29th.
Yep.
So we don't take a lot of threes, even though we shoot them pretty well. We do a lot of mid-range. Our defense is designed to take away other people's threes. So, yeah, I mean, we could be seeing the start. And what would be cool, what I would love is the Suns were kind of the start of the run and gun, shoot a lot of threes in the beginning. And it would be great if we were also part of this new revolution of, well, now it's time to correct a little bit.
So I think just to kind of answer your question, Soma, it's more what happens is a team breaks out. The Suns in the mid to late 2000s, then the Warriors in the early 2010s, where it's like this team has this bold new strategy and it lights the league on fire. Everyone else trails. It's a copycat league. You hear that in the NFL all the time. They trail. The rest of the league catches up. Then what happens is that a new team comes in and has an innovative new strategy which breaks that mold, and they tend to be the one to win because of that. And that is seemingly what the Suns are starting to do. Still borrowing a lot of the principles. It's not like they don't shoot threes, but like you said, we're low in the league for shooting threes. We shoot a lot of mid-range. But we play really good team ball. God, that's what I love about this team so much is our assist rate is high. They share the ball. It's wonderful basketball to watch.
We've come so far from the Morai brothers. I got to tell you, that was awful. Shadowhawk, yes, we do the podcast here, and it is the preferred way to watch it. Because when I have a sick burn on Dave, you get to see his face just go red. You can see the tears start to form in his eyes.
Frame by frame as his heart breaks.
Yeah.
That has literally never happened.
You can see a man break on camera. And, who doesn't want that?
Last thing I'll say to the overarching point before we switch and just talk a little bit about the game that's already started and we're up 13-9 is that...
Spoilers.
You're both right about how everything kind of comes and goes and there's trends and teams that sort of set this new blueprint and it's followed. I think what's helping is the new officiating approaches this year.
Oh my God, yeah.
The Suns do not really get a lot out of foul baiting in the way that the league is cracking down. I'm not saying Chris Paul doesn't do it. He obviously does. But even he hasn't gotten away with all of his regular bullshit this year, like the stop and start drives where he has no reason to stop to get a defender to run into him. He's gotten called for an offensive foul on that a couple times, so we're not immune to it. Overarchingly, though, what I think is most important is that the bullshit jump into people or bait people into shooting foul stuff is gone because that made defense nigh impossible.
Yeah.
You're expected to sprint out to the 3-point line to cover all these deadly shooters and then somehow rotate to take away shots that are going to be in the paint at the same time. And if you do close out on those shooters and you breathe on them, you're going to be giving them 3 free throws, which are also really high efficiency. That was a impossible task. So the fact that they've kind of pushed back a little bit, and I think teams can be a little more physical defensively, has been really good for the product this year.
Well, and you just brought it up. So to me, I thought it was just going to be, we're cracking down on non-basketball plays, and that's the end of it. It seems to be more than that. It's that, but also you're allowed to be a little more physical if you play defense the right way. So like if you beat them to the position, or if you go straight up, like they're allowing you to get away with more, which is like the wrong way to put it, because that's just good defense. And it is rewarding teams who have good defense. And I have seen nobody except James Harden pretty much, and maybe like Trae Young, not be a fan of this. Everybody likes it. Casual fans, hardcore fans, people are like, this is better. I think casual fans, just because there's not a whistle every 3 seconds. And hardcore fans like, oh, it's nice to watch defense again. I forgot what that looked like.
I'll point out Trae Young was also player of the week last week. So I think he's figuring it out.
He's done pretty well. He would still be 7th in the league in scoring if they took away free throws across the board. So he's adjusted okay after a slow start. If anything, Damian Lillard is the poster child for not liking the new rules, but even he's kind of come around more recently. All I'll say is this, the last thing they need to do is stop the take fouls. And the game would be in a really good place right now as far as watchability, getting more of the most exciting plays, seeing the best players in the world doing the most exciting things. That, to me, is super interesting. It happens to be in a time when the Suns are also good, which is great. That's also part of the equation. But nonetheless. So this is going to be weird because the game is happening as we speak. The first TV timeout is happening. The Suns are up 18-15, but I'm not going to ask for anything like a prediction. I don't really care about that so much as just what are you looking to get out of this week where we play Golden State twice? Are you happy with a split? Do you just want to see a good effort even if it is in 2 wins or 2 losses? Like what's your litmus test for how a successful week would look?
I would be thrilled with a split as long as we take our business in Detroit, of course. I would love to continue and get 19 would be the win streak after this. Being realistic, a split would be great. If we lose both, that would kind of suck, but it's early in the season. We're still developing. We've already said we haven't played our best ball yet. So, if anything, I don't want to lose twice because I don't want the Warriors to actually be this good. And if they beat us twice, then I really am going to start panicking a little bit.
Without Clay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I come down. I was like, a split would be fine. It's definitely not the end of the world if we lose, even if we lost both games. But if it comes down to we don't look like we belong on the court with them for 2 games, I'm just like, uh-oh. This is becoming a problem if they blow us out. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we are too good to get blown out. But I mean, a split would be fine. Yeah. I mean, beating them both times would be amazing. But we split with them. We win at home. They win at home. It just means we're 2 great teams. There we go. And the Western Conference Finals is going to be a lot of fun when we get there.
And if we do win tonight, again, massive if, knock on whatever the fuck, etc. To me, that's good because it also then ties the franchise win streak, and hopefully we beat Detroit, and then we set it. And if we lose Friday on the back-to-back, it's a home road back-to-back to a team this good, I'll have almost zero complaint. I'd rather not lose by 40. But, if we lose that game after winning the next 2, I'd be like, hey, it was a great run. That's a really good team. See you again on Christmas and hopefully in the playoffs.
Yep, exactly.
Hopefully not. Hopefully they get knocked out. Because, it's the same thing. Sure, you'd love to, in a perfect world, you run through all the best teams when everybody's healthy and you win the title. But I'd rather not play Golden State in the playoffs if they're going to look like this. Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, apparently their defense is just phenomenal.
Their first.
Their defense is number 1.
Man.
Without Clay.
And they have Curry, which he is, I think, a good defender. He tries to make up for deficiencies, but he's not a huge dude.
Curry has also become, I think, a good defender. Mm-hmm. I don't think he'll ever be great at his size. And I don't know that Booker will ever be great either just because of the scoring limitations that he has to face every night. But he's not you can't go at Steph anymore. Yeah, he's going to struggle in certain matchups, but there's a huge difference between a guy like him and a guy like Damian Lillard.
Mm-hmm.
It's showcased the gap between them and how he was deserving of those MVPs, and a guy like Lillard's always going to struggle to get to that level because he's only an offensive juggernaut, but he doesn't contribute on the other side. If anything, he's an exploitable guy.
And I don't have a lot of hate for Golden State. I have a little bit of hate for Golden State. I have not forgotten 4th quarter Draymond coaching the Golden State Warriors. That has stuck with me. It will never leave. You know how I hold grudges. So
sure.
It still matters, but they're not like the Lakers or the Spurs. It's okay, but I will never forget.
It's still beautiful basketball, so I'm willing to overlook it a lot of times.
I am so happy the fact of the 2 best teams in the league, unequivocally the 2 best teams in the league, are the Warriors, who constantly have beautiful basketball, play the game defensively hard, pass the ball, shoot the ball well, and the Suns, who do the exact same thing in a very different way.
And it's 2 teams that I guess with the Golden State, you could argue it a little bit, but it's not just stacked with superstars. It's people that fit the system. They're very good at what they do. But we've had this argument where if you take Draymond and put him on a different team, it's very likely he's a shell of a player that he is on this team. It's players buying into the system. Same with the Suns, right? Yeah. And so that's very fun too.
And it's about fit. JaVale McGee fits this system really well. He has not always at all his stops in his NBA career. Washington JaVale McGee was a nightmare. But it just depends on fit.
Denver McGee wasn't that great either, was he?
His first trip, he was young and athletic and dumb. His second trip, he didn't really play a lot.
Okay.
He didn't get a ton of burn last year in the second half, which is surprising, especially once they had more minutes open up with Murray out.
I can't. We didn't mention it, but man, what a great signing he was.
They're all coming together. Even Shamet, he's had some off games, but we just have such a strong bench unit now.
We are so strong. 1 through 8. Nader is the one I'm you can take, whatever.
We got 1 through 9 basically. The bench unit with Payne, Shamet, Johnson, McGee.
Yep.
All pretty solid. And that's as deep as you need to go in the playoffs. So we just need that depth for the regular season to help leverage against injuries, make sure people can get rest. Because the last thing we want is for somebody to have a major injury. Plenty of other teams are going through that. Denver is a striking example. We already had the Murray situation. Now Jokic has missed 5 games while he was back last night. And now, I mean, who the hell knows with Michael Porter Jr.?
He's done for the season.
Done for the year for sure.
Yep.
The idea is he's supposed to make a full recovery. I hope he does because I don't wish that on anybody.
Yeah.
But as a person who's just struggled with a back thing in general, it usually doesn't just get better completely. It might get better to the point where he can still play in the NBA, and I hope it does. But like, it's not something that's gonna be like, oh well, he's had his third surgery in 5 years, so now he's good for the rest of his career.
I'm a little bit nervous about Clay for that too, but I'm hoping.
I know. I think Clay is nervous about that. I was reading a feature a couple of days ago where he was just kind of like taking a moment to reflect on the court after their most recent game, because he was like, "I've worked this hard, but this is the hardest part. What's left? It's one thing to get out there and practice with everybody and run and get reps, but it's like actually playing at NBA speed for the first time in 2.5 seasons is just a different beast."
And you're like, well, if you're cynical, you'd be like, yeah, but he got paid. He just got a big salary. And it's like, for a guy like Clay, especially, he wants to get on the court.
Yeah.
He's like a gym rat. He wants to play. He's competitive. Like, the money's great, of course, and they love it, whatever, but they want to play the game they love. And yeah, I am really nervous. So sending good energy that way, even though him being healthy probably means we're doomed. I just, because it's a fun question. I want to answer Jaguar's question.
We'll go to the outro slide.
Dave, best player you've ever seen play. This is hard because I've seen LeBron play, but like not at a time when he was peak LeBron. Mm-hmm. And I've seen Steve Nash play, but in the game I was there, it wasn't like, wow, Steve. I would probably say the best player and the best experience I've seen play is probably Amari Stoudemire. Because I happened to go to a game where he was just absolutely electric, super athletic, and getting to see that up close was crazy.
We were there for his 50 piece, right?
I wasn't.
I feel like I was at that game.
That might have just been you?
We didn't even know you, Sean.
Maybe I went with like family. Maybe that's why I took my dad and my grandpa too. I did that once upon a time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Amari had his moments where it was like, holy shit, like this is just not something we've really seen before. It's a shame what injuries did to his career. And he still managed to come back and have, third team All-NBA-esque couple of years and a decent closeout to his career. But who knows what kind of trajectory he would have been on.
Sorry, go ahead.
The best person I saw Akeem Olajuwon in like 97.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
So not quite his prime, but man, I mean, just for a big man, his skill set, his touch, his footwork. I mean, LeBron is tempting because even, age 36 LeBron was an MVP candidate before he got hurt. So I think it's probably him just because it'd be silly almost not to. But if I'm trying to think outside the box, like Nash would be up there. Again, we didn't really get a chance to... all of us were poor when they first really got good.
Yep.
So we didn't really get a chance to go to games then, and they also went through the roof because they were so popular. I think Olajuwon would be my pick. Never got to see Jordan live. I was too young to really appreciate it anyways, but now I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but when I look back, I was like, even at that time, Olajuwon kind of impressed me.
I would have to say, I mean, if you're going off the best player I've ever seen live, it's probably LeBron. I wanted to go see him, I think in 2016 or 2017. I think it was around that time when he came to the Suns, and I remember he had some vicious dunk that I'm like, damn it, I knew I should have gone to this game. So he's probably the best player overall. I mean, I saw Nash as well, but that was in 2009, 2008, so he wasn't quite Nash of 04, 05, 05, 06, that time frame. But I have a unique answer that this is not absolutely not the best player, but the best game I've ever been to was actually a college game where Eddie House, if you guys probably know that name, at ASU, exploded for 40 points in the first half.
Jesus.
Just could not miss. And
I was going to say 40 points in a college game. I was like, dang, that's pretty good. First half.
No. Maybe I might be overestimating the half, but I know it was well over 25, 30. It was high. Like the guy couldn't miss. It was one towards the end of the half where he just had some fadeaway three, fell on the floor and hit nothing but net, and the entire arena was and it was fun. Like it was just one of those things where some guy gets insanely hot and you're just like, what do we do? Like he can't miss. What do we do right now? This is amazing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. See, those are the ones that are fun because, like, we saw LeBron, but it wasn't like he was Miami Heat LeBron where it's an alley-oop every other play. It's like he was kind of pedestrian in this game. Maybe it's my blinders on because they were killing us that game. But, yeah.
Yeah, we were close the whole game.
We came back. We were, down by 20, but we made it competitive.
House had 61 in the game.
Holy crap!
That was a road game. I was not at that one. There was another one where he had 3-3. It was against BYU, I think.
Okay.
Oh, I mean, well, no wonder
he was such a prolific scorer in college. It's not shocking he had more than one. But
yeah,
61 tied a Pac-10 record.
Set
by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Yep. Pretty good company.
Dang.
That was not a game that was in Tempe. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to that one. But
how fun would that have been, though?
Yeah. I also I shared a court with James Harden, so that's the best play I've ever seen live.
Yeah, you guarded him for a short stretch, as I recall.
I guarded him for a very short stretch, and then he jumped over
he got dunked on.
It went poorly, as
I
it would.
I love that story, yeah.
Because I'd be like, oh, Dave got dunked on. But yeah, he would have fucked me up, too. So
it actually sapped some athleticism out of Dave's body.
I was 22, just gone.
Yeah, it was so bad. Dave lost 3 inches off his vertical. It's pretty sad.
Like Dave was Chris Evans when James Harden started to drive past him, and then he was old Captain America when the dunk was finished.
It
was that bad.
That's true. It was really bad. Fun fact: I was born in 1986, so I did miss Larry Bird live, but it sounds really cool. I've seen clips, and he's just toying with people. It's pretty great.
There's a reason why him and Jordan got along so well. It's because they were both ruthless competitors.
Yeah.
Not much has been made about Bird's competitive streak as it has Jordan's, because Bird's career also was derailed by injuries. Because, I mean, he's still probably top 10 all time, and he only played, 12 seasons effectively? Like, never know. Back problems, though. MPJ.
Here it was. I found the game. It was the BYU game. He shot BYU game. He actually was 0 for 16 in the game. And the very next game against San Diego State, Eddie House sank 16 field goals in the first half alone on his way to a school record 46 points. So he hit 16 shots in the first, so over 30 points in the first half.
He really tapered off in the second half then. Very Jonas Valanciunas-esque.
But yeah, that first half was just like, holy shit, what is going on?
All right, Suns are down by 4. The sky is falling. Everything's over. So take back everything we just said. Everything's fucked.
Tune in next week when I'm on the ledge again.
Yeah, when we lose all 3 games this week and it's all falling apart. That is the end of the episode. We'll be back next Thursday with a show. There's going to be some alteration for Christmas, but I'm not sure which week yet. So we'll cross that bridge when we get closer. But regular show next week, 7:30 our time, 9:30 Eastern. In between episodes, you can find us at our website, objectionnetwork.com, or at youtube.com/objectionnetwork for new videos. Mostly 7 days a week. It's complicated. See you next time.
Thank you.
Jordan Poole's
Bye.
messing us up. I saw. Yeah, bye.